Hi, this is Larry London. Welcome once again to Border Crossings here on VOA TV. And today we are joined by the duo known as the 180s. It's Daniel and Autumn, who have been together for a little bit as another group performing Americana music, which people like Rolling Stone magazine said that they were ones to watch. They've had tremendous success, but they just decided to do a 180. So we welcome Daniel and Autumn here to our program, and it's great to have you guys. The 180s, that's a clever, creative way for saying we're just going to turn this around.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you for having us, Larry. We're glad to be here. Appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to us. Yeah, the 180s, that's our MO as people. And that's an apt name for two people who can never make up their mind.
Yep. Precisely.
Now, I did read somewhere where you said that you came up with a name, you came up with a plan, and then you said, now we're going to figure out what we're going to do. Usually it goes the other way around.
Yeah. I think actually what was happening was we kept changing our minds about what type of music we were going to play. Like we would come up with a song that felt like it wasn't going to fit. Like it wouldn't fit, like say on an Americana album or on a folk album or whatever. You know, for instance, we came up with this disco inspired song, No King.
Mm-hmm.
We thought there's no way we're going to put this out there. We're not going to put this on an album because it just doesn't fit the other stuff we're doing. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you know, we had floated the name the 180s, I think because we were talking about starting an 80s pop band or something.
Yeah, the name was definitely a joke at first.
Yeah. And it just clicked. We're like, hey, you know, we can kind of steer into this fact that we can't make up our mind or that we're constantly changing our minds.
Yeah.
And just would say we'll make every release like markedly different than the previous release, and that'll just be what we do.
Yeah.
And you know, and we'll put it on the same album. And somehow it all kind of sounds like it should be on the same album.
Yeah, I mean, we have, you know, most of the same elements in all the songs. You know, we have my vocals are on it, his vocals are on it. We have big string arrangements. We have pedal steel guitar, you know, bass, drums, synthesizers. So each song has many of the same elements. So it still sounds like the same band, but each new release takes a big turn, a 180, if you will.
Yeah.
And your new music, you work with some well-known studio musicians who've worked with, I guess, Carrie Underwood was one named Sheryl Crow I saw. So you've had you got together with a bunch of really talented musicians to make this album. And what you did before, you had your own band, which I can't pronounce the name. So maybe you have to help me out with this.
It's New Reveille.
New Reveille.
Yeah.
And everything was going so well. So why the change?
Well, it's kind of one of those stories. I feel like it's like a rite of passage for bands, right? Like you have you get a record deal and maybe something goes wrong with it. In that case, we had a great experience. You know, we got signed to a label and they made it possible to go to Nashville and record at Ocean Way Studios and Blackbird Studios with some of these big names. And you know, just get spoiled for a few months, you know, making music and not having to worry about any of the technical stuff. And just, it was amazing. But in the middle of our release, the label went under. And that was kind of in the middle of the album push, you know, this album we had worked on for a year. And in the wake of that, we continued trying to do New Reveille, but it just kind of, you know, one thing after another kind of happened and the wheels came off of it. And so,
yeah, it just, I mean, eventually just kind of fizzled out and, you know, the pandemic hit, and that's really when, you know, we had a couple of shows lined up we were going to do in 2020, like with Katie Tunstall and some other names, and it just didn't, those shows never happened, and everything just kind of fizzled out, and it just sort of naturally just decayed. And
you know, the pandemic, she mentioned the pandemic, that was kind of like for us in a way a catalyst to do this new music because you know, we, like other people, we were in quarantine, right? And we had to figure out a way to create this stuff without being able to get together with people during that time. So we tapped some of the people we had worked with New Reveille. Fred Eltringham on the drums. He's played with a lot of, names. He's Sheryl Crow's drummer. Mm-hmm. And Mark Hill on bass. We reached out to those guys and they were like more than willing to record parts for us from their home studios and just go back and forth sending us tracks. And that turned out to really work.
You know, these are really busy guys. They play for, you know, big names. And the fact that they were willing to, you know, record for us, that it just meant so much. And, you know, we think that probably the pandemic helped with that in some way because as everyone knows, you know, musicians, we didn't have a lot to do during the pandemic. We weren't playing shows. So those of us that are lucky enough to be able to record in our home studio, you know, we got to do that, and we're just really grateful that they were willing to do that for us.
Yeah.
So, and they were so cool.
Yeah. It's like we have a rotation of some of the, you know, coolest people and, you know, just great musicians. Nick Baglio is another one, our good friend on drums who plays on No King. And again, these are mostly people who we're corresponding with remotely, even kind of after the, you know, the thick of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine what this business would be like if we didn't have the technology we had during this pandemic? It would be unbelievably painful. I mean, here we have Zoom, we have all of this stuff, and it's amazing. But we're talking with Daniel and Autumn, and they are the 180s. And if you guys wouldn't mind doing a song for us, we'd love to hear some of the new sounds.
Cool. Yeah.
What's the first song we're going to play here?
We'll do Dead Starlight.
Yeah, Dead Starlight is it's our first single that we released back in June.
Yep.
And this song is it's about, you know, kind of holding on to the past and how there's futility in that, you know. Yeah.
All right, the 180s, Dead Starlight.
One last ride to the old desert town we used to hide in, drifting so easy through the worst we never thought we'd do. Sooner or later we fall, hanging on the dead starlight in your eyes, and I'm holding on to a ghost. I'll keep trying to reach you till the light is gone.
Crossings, and that song is called Dead Starlight. It is the 180s. They are the 180s. We've got Daniel and Autumn with us here on the program today. And the style of music that you guys, the lane you're in, is called, I guess, Americana. And for the benefit of our worldwide audience who are listening in 100 different countries around the world right now, what does Americana mean? You've got Americana, you've got roots, you've got folk. Describe the sound of the 180s?
Well, Americana, I guess, is sort of a smishmash of like a bunch of different genres. You know, Americana embodies like a little bit of country, roots, folk, blues. There's a little bit of rock and roll in there. So a lot of music can be defined as Americana.
Yeah, it's so many things that I kind of don't know what it is. I kind of have no idea, but I think that was a good answer.
It's a smishmash. It is a lot of things, but
roots based.
It's roots based. Yeah. But our music, is a little bit more on the alternative pop / Americana side, and I think that's because, you know, a lot of the melodies we write are very kind of more pop based. But we have a lot of traditional Americana instruments. So we have like the acoustic guitar and the violin and the pedal steel, which is like very Americana, very country. But we also use digital instruments. We use synthesizers. So it's like we took a genre that's already a bunch of different things, and then we added a bunch of different things to it. Yeah. And it's like we just put it in a blender and made a really delicious smoothie out of it.
Yeah, we were smoothie. Okay, we said stew, but I think smoothie sounds. Yeah, we were like, we take all of our favorite things and put it in this stew, and like see what happens. And we have no idea what to call it. This is probably the actual truth, but you know, you kind of have to call it something. So yeah, there are elements of everything. Yeah. I guess. And instead of recording a fiddle,
sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Smoothie stew. That's wonderful. Or a stew smoothie.
Stew smoothie.
Yeah.
It's a stoothie. That's it. We got our own sound now. It's stoothie.
Well, you know, instead of having
a stoothie we've created.
Instead of having like one violin track, we're like, but we want it to be an orchestra. And Autumn's like classically trained. So we're like, hey, we don't have to make this sound like a fiddle track. Let's record an entire orchestral section of 24 violins. And so she plays 24 times, and that becomes the string section. And then on top of that, we'll do synths. And then we end up with like 400 tracks that we're trying to mix. And that's why we do it ourselves, is because it would give anybody a heart attack to try to, I think, from us.
It's a lot.
And the last album you did prior to this album was done in Nashville. And then now you've got you're working on an album at home in your own home studio in the Carolinas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Correct.
Here,
so it's a whole different vibe and a whole different process, and you don't have the Hollywood producers meddling now. You guys get to control your own sound.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to do everything on our own, but we, you know, definitely, like, we actually just recently played Americana Fest back in September, and we like drove past, it was in Nashville, and we drove past you know, Ocean Way, which is where we had recorded that album with New Reveille, and we kind of, you know, we were reminiscing and like, oh, it was so nice to record at Ocean Way, one of the best studios in the world, and to have, you know, people pushing buttons for us, and like these big Nashville players come in and just like it was just so amazing. And so we, you know, miss that, but we do like having, I think, full control over like the production and everything.
Everything's a trade-off, you know. I mean, there's certainly benefits of, you know, not having to worry about where you place a mic, and you kind of, when you try to do it yourself, you develop an appreciation for the people whose lives are dedicated to being, you know, a recording engineer or a producer or whatever, and you realize that they're so good at what they're doing that they make it look effortless. And you know, we're not going to rule out enlisting their help.
So, I mean, the writing process, who writes the lyrics, the melodies, who decides what? I mean, in terms, is it a collaboration? Is there one person whose job write the songs, or how does it work for you guys?
We both do it all, actually. And every song starts out different than the last. There's not one way that we write a song. I think most songwriters could probably say the same thing. Sometimes the songs will start with a drum beat that he writes. He's like, let's, you know, which was hard for me to start doing. Or sometimes, you know, maybe I will have like written a melody on my iPhone, and he's like, "Oh, that's so cool. Let me try these chords to it." But yeah, it's a total collaboration, 100%. There are some songs, like this song will likely be on our album. It's called Cinnamon. I was like teaching violin one day, and I was done with the day, and I went upstairs, and he's like, "Oh, I wrote this thing. I don't know if it's any good." And it's like it's like my favorite song ever. Beautiful, piano, beautiful chords. And, it's like he pretty much wrote that song, but I came in and, changed melodies around, and we wrote the lyrics together. And
well, I had said, a lot of times when I don't know what the lyrics of a song are going to be yet, then I just put down scratch lyrics, whatever comes into my head, just to get the melody down to communicate it. And there was one lyric where I think I had said the word sentiment.
Yeah,
sentiment. And then you heard it as cinnamon, and we're like, hey, let's make that be the song. How do we make that be what the song's about? So we came up with a character whose nickname was Cinnamon, and we wrote a whole song out of that. By contrast, No King, which we just released October 14th, that was we had just written a lot of these sort of ballads and kind of lamenting, melancholy tunes, and we just really wanted to write something upbeat. And every time I've ever wanted to do that, I just start with a drum beat. So I laid down a drum beat, and then Autumn took a microphone and started just riffing on melodies, and then one thing after another, and it turned into a song. And a lot of times it ends up with us having an entire song or arrangement, melody, recording even, and then being like, oh yeah, we need to write the real lyrics to this song now. We've become too attached to these fake lyrics that we put in place. So we'll just sit down with go to Barnes and Noble, or sit in the,
Well, I guess is that the next song that you're going to play for us now?
Yeah, we can play No King. We'll do an acoustic version. It's not quite like the album version, but we'll do what we can with it.
Well, we get the exclusive version, which I love. They're here. So this is No King. Is that the name of the song?
Yep.
No King.
Okay, so let's check it out. This is the brand new single from the 180s. This is called No King, here on Border Crossings.
Cover is blown. My You drop another time bomb in my head. Watch until it blows and I'm seeing red. You're gassing up the lights, honey, now I see. You falling from your tower, baby, you're no king.
Border Crossings, No King. It's the new single, and we have the 180s with us right now, Daniel and Autumn, who are the vocalists and the songwriters. They put the whole collection of songs they've got together. And No King was inspired by what? Tell me the basis of the song, No King.
Yeah.
So that's what the one, No King started off with me playing a drum beat on the keyboard, and then Autumn just kind of improvising. We kind of got the bug to try to do a disco inspired song, right? And listen to a bunch of like Bee Gees, and ABBA and stuff like that. And just wanted to kind of go out on a limb and try something new. And then the song, I guess, had a certain feeling to it.
Yeah.
That kind of felt like empowering. And just, we start putting words on the page and it kind of just becomes about, confronting somebody who's maybe gotten the best of you and telling them no more of that. You got their number, you see through it, and you're kind of taking the reins back,
Yeah.
Now, as singer-songwriters, I've often asked this question because you write your own music, which is great. Where's the most unusual, unique place you ever got inspiration or motivation for a song? What either subject matter, location gave you an idea? And it would be unusual, somewhere, out of the ordinary. Because everybody writes about love songs and all that, but where did you get something,
Yes. I mean, I kind of want to talk about like a sort of a general broad idea here. Which is, it's not really like the inspiration for a song, but this is actually more the inspiration for the sound that we have, which like we wanted to have, to be sonically different. And like we said earlier, we wanted to put a lot of things into this stew or smoothie or stewthie. We wanted to put a lot into it. And when we first decided to start this band as a duo, we weren't exactly sure how to do that. And we have some early recordings where, you can tell we didn't quite hit the mark yet. So we actually, in the fall of 2020, kind of getting some cabin fever, kind of feeling like, what's going on in the world right now? What's going to happen? We didn't know, early in the pandemic, it felt kind of strange. So we decided, screw it, let's just like drive across the country. So I know, people say this all the time, like they get inspiration from the desert and the Southwest, but that's so true. Like just driving across the country and like seeing, Tennessee, Texas, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, seeing all these like the most beautiful places in this country, especially the desert too, like just, and in spending all that time together in the car, like, and just being in awe the whole time. I think somehow when we came back, we had it. We had the sound. We knew what we wanted to put in it.
And we listened to a lot of music on that trip too, and talked a lot about what we liked and stuff we were listening to. But yeah, I guess that's to say, the inspiration kind of comes to you in a way that you can't really see where it comes from sometimes.
Yeah.
But it can be, you're eavesdropping on a subway and you're like, oh, like I get, I hear that. Or like what I mentioned before with the song Cinnamon that we're going to be putting out. It's completely random. Or sometimes there's a major life event that you've gone through that you're trying to process, so it can go from really trivial or just passing random things, or it can be really profound things that you're trying to make sense of. And I think that our music kind of, covers all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has COVID changed the way you do what you do? the whole pandemic, gave you a chance to sit and look at each other, from the inside. You spend a lot of time together. Isolated. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So, a lot of songs came to mind, I would assume, a lot of songwriting and soul searching about what was happening in the world, a lot of things in the news at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of anxiety, I'm sure, as everyone felt in the beginning. And, I think we were able to kind of process it together. And, for me, I feel like, yeah, we've written quite a few songs and come up with quite a few ideas. But again, the way it all came together sonically for me is like, I feel like, because we did a lot of that during the pandemic, like just trial and error and figuring out how to put stuff together.
Well, I think the quarantine, to the question of like, how did the pandemic really affect the process? And like, I think music became kind of more of an escape, from the anxieties, which some might critique, the notion of trying to escape, but I think that, and there's another part of where it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like as introverted people, at times it felt like we were in our element, during quarantine. Well, maybe not you so much, I don't know, but me for sure.
Me a little bit, yeah.
But it affected the process, as I mentioned, just because out of necessity, you wind up needing to get creative in how you execute. Like, how do you make an album when you can't go play music with people?
Right.
Big question. Like, how do you make an album when you can't get together with people? Well, for one, you have to play all the stuff yourself. You have to get online and research how to do things. Where do you put a microphone to achieve this sound? What production tricks do you use to achieve this sound? And how do you get a drummer in Nashville to give you a drum track that works for your song? And so that's what the pandemic really, really did, was it pushed us to a new way of working that in some ways we probably continue to embrace.
Yeah, it's true. We actually, I had mentioned earlier, we played Americana Fest back in September. That was our first show as the 180s ever. And, that's just, I feel like that's just took a long time to get there. But I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, one of my friends sent me an article that was said something like, live shows won't be a thing again until fall of 2021. And before the pandemic, for both of us and for a lot of our music friends, playing shows like almost every weekend was like, that's just what we all did. Mm-hmm. And to hear that or read that article, just like, it shocked me. But here we are in September, we were in September of 2022. And if I would have known that I wouldn't have played my first show until September 2022, I would have just been like, there's no way. So that was a huge change, I think, for everybody and for us especially. And it's actually funny because I got so used to not playing shows that I was like, I don't know if I know how to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But we were able to hone in on the recording process and songwriting and stuff, which is good. So
we've got the 180s with us here on Border Crossings, and you guys are going to have time for one more song for us. And I believe you said this is the new release, the new track.
Yep. This song is called Two Jet Planes.
Two Jet Planes. All right, here they are, Daniel and Autumn. It's the 180s, Two Jet Planes on Border Crossings.
I
Crossings, and that's two jet planes from two singers, Daniel and Autumn. They are the 180s, and they're joining us today. Now, we have so far a collection of singles, but album-wise, what's happening? I think your plan has been to just continue putting out singles, build the story, and then put out an album. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, that's correct. We put out 2 singles so far, so Dead Starlight and No King. And then the song you just heard, Two Jet Planes, that's a song we're planning to release here pretty soon. And yeah, we hope to have our record done and ready to put out by the spring.
And the album name?
TBD.
TBD.
That's a good album name.
Yeah, we'll go with that. TBD.
What names are you considering? How about that? Give us a little something.
I think we abandoned that conversation probably when we came up with the band name, right?
Yeah.
I guess probably a year ago.
I mean, you did like the idea of calling it Starseed or something.
Yeah, we can say that now that we're not going to do that.
Yeah, we're probably
Some
not
of them
gonna
are
do that.
embarrassing. Yeah, I wanted to call it Starseed at one point because that was like but then that was like an Our Lady Peace song that I liked way back in the day, and then we just, I can't even remember the inspiration for that.
Yeah.
We're still looking for that common thread that ties it all together, but we'll let you know, and that'll be the name.
Yeah.
Stuthy. There you go. Stuthy.
I think we just came up with it. That's it. Decision made.
Where can people reach you on social media? Where can our audience around the world find you, get more information about the 180s?
We're everywhere, We're on Instagram. That seems to be the platform that a lot of people are using now. So we're on Instagram, just Instagram.com/the180s. All of our handles are like at the 180s, all written out as words. We're on Facebook as well. We're on Twitter. We're on TikTok. We've got a few videos on there. And we have a website, just the180s.com.
That's great. And right now we are broadcasting, as I mentioned, 100 countries. We've got millions of people tuned in. And among those are the troops. And I don't know if you have anything you'd like to say to our military members who are tuned in and to our other worldwide audience. We'd love to hear from you guys before we say goodbye.
Just thank you so much for what you do. We're really appreciative for you making that sacrifice for our country.
Hugely thankful. Yep.
And all the things that we take for granted, like thanks for making all those things possible.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Daniel and Autumn, for being on the show. We look forward to the new album TBD sometime in 2023 and all the great music you guys continue to put out. It's the 180s, and this is Border Crossings. My name's Larry London. Thanks for watching.